That's most definitely what's up. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another day. Another dollar. Another day of vibing. Welcome. Welcome. You all ready for a good day? Ready to go through some stuff? Rock and roll, chat, hang out. It's gonna be a fun one. We're also gonna be doing the Free Roam podcast today. So we will have Mr. Joel Raptor on later and we'll talk about all sorts of stuff because we do have some good stuff coming. And in the meantime, we're gonna run through a handful of stories, some crazy stuff, and yeah, it's gonna be good. Where did that story go? Here it is. Okay. Anyway, how are you guys? Can you please have a boring stream, please? Okay. Sounds like a plan. We'll do that. Are you doing the state of play tomorrow? I mean, I'm down to. We'll read the announcement and talk about it because I'm getting the feeling that they are. I don't know, I think that they are potentially walking it back just a tad. Because again, it's a state of play, it's not a full showcase. And typically state of plays show stuff that usually has already been announced. Sometimes they have some big announcements, but I don't know. The fact that they specifically said that it will have PSVR 2 stuff shown off, I'm like, okay, so this probably is not you swinging with like Naughty Dog and stuff. It's probably like, you know, here are some smaller projects, probably a lot of Concord, because PlayStation is, I think they're a confirmed partner of Summer Game Fest, which would imply that there will be something they will have there to show media and let media play. And the only game that really makes sense for them to show media and let media play would be Concord. Yeah. Concord, Fair Games, Ghost of Tsushima 2, VR stuff, Helldivers update. I think all of that makes sense. Ghost of Tsushima 2, I'm still on the fence as to whether they announce it or not. They might just, like, it's almost certainly not coming till next year. So at that point, like, we know they don't want to announce stuff close or far away from launch. They want to announce it closer. So why would they announce it now, you know? What's Concord? It's another live service game. Might be a hard hitter at the end. There might be. It could just be a splash screen and like a little show of like the PS5 Pro. You know, show what it'll look like and that's it. You know, could be something as simple as that. ARX, maybe. I don't know. 12. Thank you for subbing with Prime over on Twitch. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Miss My Grind. Hey, Luke, longtime YouTube viewer, first stream. Great admirer of your Lego collection. What are we talking about today? We have a whole smorgasbord, as is the technical term, of stuff. Star Citizen officially raised $700 million. We'll talk about that. PlayStation State of Play. Sony saying, oopsie poopsie, we made stuff up. Kerbal Space Program Sadness, CDPR stuff. Ubisoft did another dum-dum by introducing a $10 a month subscription for Rainbow Six. So that's going over great, as I'm sure you can imagine. Dragon's Dogma 2 passes another record, as does Capcom in general. You know, they've had 7 consecutive years of record results. They're just killing it. And beyond that, since the last stream, they confirmed that Call of Duty is coming to Game Pass. We could go through Dragon Age if we have time. Season 2 of Skull and Bones launched as well. I have tried it, so I could tell you. And then if we're bored at the very end, we can cover this, which is just streamers breaking their setups while having mental breakdowns, which is always entertaining. So yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time to be alive. Marrow's Boneyard, thank you for the 300 bits. My goodness. One good thing from Kill the Justice League is it drove me back to DC Universe Online. I've actually heard a lot of people say that. I've heard a lot of people, especially recently, bringing up DC Universe. You are welcome, my dear friend, and here's something I want to say before we start in regards to skill-based matchmaking. It's a good thing for Call of Duty because I come back from work, I just want to play for an hour or two without being stepped on, and then go to sleep so I can grind life the next day. I wanted to say that since 6 months ago. Well, skill-based matchmaking is an interesting thing because like X-Defiant is the most recent one to bring up the discussion again. I guess we can do this. News segment. So X-Defiant announced ahead of its launch, like a week or two ago, that they were not going to have skill-based matchmaking in unranked modes after you get past the like kind of training wheels, which is I think the first 25 levels, I want to say. So after you get your feet under you, there's no skill-based matchmaking if you are not playing in ranked, which people are like, great. That to me has been the solution for a long time. If you want to play ranked, or if you want skill-based matchmaking, if you really want to challenge, that's where ranked comes in. Otherwise, just let it be a free-for-all. The problem is now there are so many sweaty people that like to stomp on people that they will go into unranked just to stomp on casual players when really they probably should be in ranked, but they just want the easy game, so they go into casual and then curb stomp. And we actually ran into this last night. I tried booting up and playing some X-Defiant with some friends and my brothers and Nikki, and honestly, like the first match we loaded into with no skill-based matchmaking, we went up against a team. They were all together. They were all like one group or one clan, whatever you'd call it. And they just absolutely curb stomped us. Like it was not even close. And granted, we're not great, but it was just like a total sweaty blowout. You know, the types of guys that are doing all the slide canceling constantly, their cameras shaking back and forth violently. It's just, it gives you a stroke just looking at it. That was them, every single one of the players on their team. And for them, I'm sure they were having a great time. For us, we were not having a good time. Like it made us shut down the game and go play Overwatch instead because it was so sweaty, it sucked the fun out. And this is the thing that people don't seem to bring up when they talk about like not liking skill-based matchmaking, is there's always another side of it. If you're curb stomping noobs and having an easy game, someone else is having a really bad game. Like this isn't that hard to understand, but people don't really care. They just want to be able to get 30 kills in a match, right? But for the developer, their hope is that everybody's having a good time, because you'll spend money whether you are a good player or a bad player. You might even spend more money if you're a bad player. Who knows? I don't know what the stats say. But for them, they're only caring about that. And so that's why games like Call of Duty have so consistently kept skill-based matchmaking, because when they do those little surveys every 15 matches or whatever it is, and they ask, did you just enjoy the match you played? When they have skill-based matchmaking turned on, the average response is higher than when it's off, which is not even like really a controversial thing. They've said this in like dev updates when people have been like, take skill-based matchmaking away from Call of Duty, make it like the good old days or whatever. I want to curb stomp people. But they're like, when you look at the whole player base, it's not actually that great. This is funny. X-Defiant Dev agrees that with no skill-based matchmaking, if you're not finding easy enemies, it's because you are the easy enemy. Which is kind of a savage way of being like, yeah, if you notice everywhere you go, all the matches you're playing, you're getting curb stomped. It's probably because you suck. So there's that. It's pretty savage. It's pretty savage. Honestly, I think the balance that they've hit is fine. Wanted to turn on the AC because I'm already sweating like a pig. Oink, oink. Am I right, guys? Shout out to all my little piggies out there. There we go. So with that, I think doing unranked with no skill-based matchmaking and bringing skill-based matchmaking into ranked is fine, but it's actively like, it turned off my whole group to the game. We, after going up against those sweaty players, who I'm sure had a great time, you know, they didn't actually win by much, but it felt like they were just stomping on us. We had better objective control, but they had way more kills. You know, they were playing it like one of those good old Call of Duty multiplayer lobbies. And so I'm sure they had a great time, but everyone else in my party was like, screw this. No, we're going to go play something else. And so just there, like they lost 5-6 players, whatever our group count was. I think it was 6 of us. So like that was an instance of skill-based matchmaking, and the imbalance that not having it can bring led to one group having a really good time and another group literally quitting the game and going and playing something else. And that was after my brothers had been playing for like an hour or two before that, and they said that probably 60-70% of matches were against those sweats that just made it not really fun. Yeah, the bunny hopping. Yeah, it's like, again, the types of people that like that kind of gameplay love it, and they love curb stomping people with it. But the people who are just booting it up to try to have fun with their friends, it doesn't strike a good balance with that. So I just think that skill-based matchmaking, I understand why some people, especially the sweaty try-hard types, why they don't like it, because they want to have an easy game every once in a while. Just like all of us, we all would love that. But in order for one person to have an easy game, somebody else has to have a miserable game. And you have to remember that when you're thinking of the gaming community that's playing this game on the whole, because that group we played against had a great time. We had a terrible time, and it actually made us shut down the game. So for Ubisoft, we'll see if they keep skill-based matchmaking relegated just to ranked, or if they tweak stuff. But I would be fascinated to see what the stats say, because for us, we booted it up, played, and then we're like, nope, we're good. We're good. But they just need some sick clips for their TikToks. Yeah, you know those TikToks where it's all just like, hold up, wait a minute, and then they play like 15 memes of like, oh, let me shove the carrot in the fish's mouth, and then, oh, let me go and show the clip of Donkey from Shrek kicking somebody, and then like they just go through all of the different memes, and it's just the most ADHD riddled thing you've ever seen in your life. I felt like I was playing against the guys that make those videos. Yeah. But skill-based matchmaking makes every game even, which means every game people use every trick in the book because they gotta be on their A game. Yeah, no, like I said, I understand both sides of it. I like having easy games every once in a while. Whether we're playing Warzone, Fortnite, Overwatch, whatever, it's fine to have some easy games. But honestly, like, maybe this is just weird. I like games that are closer. I like playing games where it comes down to the wire. Those are the games that I tend to find more engaging and more interesting. Because like we've all done it, whether you're playing like old school Overwatch or if you're playing Valorant or whatever, and you have a total blowout. You're playing Valorant, you win 13-0, and it's just a curb stomping. It honestly doesn't get that, like it stops being fun. It's not even close to engaging. Whereas when it's close, it's like, oh, this could go either way. Let's see. Let's mess around with it. You know, it's much more interesting. Oh yeah, William Knife Man. Or whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah, you know exactly the clips I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah, Joaquin, I mean, it might have lost you guys, but oops, it scrolled down. But for me, someone who stopped playing COD because I don't want to have to sweat every game to get 15 kills, they gained a player in me while COD lost one. Yeah, and we'll see long term how it stays. And it might just be, you know, that the market will create, you know, the gaps for each player. And for somebody like you, Joaquin, you might find X Defiant is a better fit for you. But I think eventually all of the people that you're stomping on for the easy matches, they're just gonna leave. And then you're just gonna be left with basically high skill players. Granted, with no skill-based matchmaking on, but the only people playing are the sweaty types. And so it's just gonna end up being the same thing all over again, you know? But I've seen some of you guys are stupid good at COD and games like this, so you're probably gonna be fine either way. You're probably gonna be just fine, let's be completely honest. So yeah, it's an interesting balance, because I see how you could argue that both sides of it have their perks and disadvantages. And maybe the best thing about it is that X Defiant as a game can have one approach and COD can have another. And it's just like a real-time experiment. We can see which fits better and which actually works out better, you know? So I'm kind of a fan of the balance. AirX12, thank you for gifting a sub to the community over on Twitch. Welcome, DD4527. Welcome, welcome. Arex, thank you for tipping 5 too. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
AOREX12 donated $5. Also, I used to love Xbox, like a die-hard fan, but they shoved it in the belly, and I'm sad now. On that note, your thoughts for COD 6 and Xbox?
I do have that story pulled up. I can pull that up and look at it. Cause yeah, I mean, we have some info on that. Let's see. Let's see. It's such a good problem to have like a chat that's super active and is scrolling fast, but it makes it so I can lose comments really quickly. You know, Bite Size, good to see you again, my friend. Hey, look, how you doing, bud? I'm doing great.
That's most definitely what's up.
That is most definitely what's up. Did you try Throne and Liberty by chance? I did not. I just Googled it. Looks like they have a tester program. Have any of you guys heard about this? Castleton. It's a Castleton. Vibrant city with merchants ready to sell or trade. Residents happy to offer information. Resistant soldiers protecting the peace. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Is it just like a big MMO? Is that what it is? I don't know. I'll keep the tab open. I'll check it out. Because, like, you remember when New World dropped and we all played New World and we're like, oh, finally, a new MMO we can all play together and have a great time with. And then it just kind of, like, drifted away. I'm hoping we get a new, like, big one. Because, like, I'd be down to get into like, World of Warcraft, but I really don't like the idea of paying, like, $15 a month, you know? It's like, ugh. And I've heard Diablo 4 is much better now. Has anyone here tried it? Has anyone tried Diablo 4 since the updates and stuff? Yeah, it's an MMO by NCSoft at Amazon Games. I got to play it, don't mind it. It was pretty decent. Oh, interesting. I will be at Summer Game Fest, and They're gonna have a lot, like Amazon Games is usually there, like Netflix Games is usually there, so maybe I'll get the chance to try it. That'd be cool. Currently level 70 on my Necro. Oh baby. Yeah, I only play Necromancer, honestly. I've tried other builds and stuff. I just like Necromancers, honestly. I like doing the little bone pile and then the little explosions and just all the AoE. How much AoE do you want? Yes. That's me. Already gotten through the season and it's good. Wish there was a bit more content, but the Loot Reborn is very good. Did new character and they both felt really powerful by level 50. It's honestly, the Diablo 4 story is just fascinating because they really had something special on their hands. People forget, but it reviewed as like 90 out of 100 from most outlets. It was like, I think low 90s on Metacritic. And then they just botched it with the season 1 update. And it's taken them all this time to dig themselves out of that hole, but they eventually did get there.
Jurassic is now a member.
Thank you, my friend. Jurassic, thank you. And then Elitist Edits, thank you for the 5. What's your thought on Rocksteady former dev partnership with Xbox Studios on a new game at their new studios, 100 stars? I have that pulled up. It seems like a couple people have verified it, so I think it's legitimate. Again, it's not super clear. Let's see. Let me just Google the studio's name. 100 stars. Okay. Yeah, it sounded to me like it was just pure speculation for a while, but now it seems like it actually could be legitimate. Here it is.
Elitist_edits donated $5 through Super Chat.
Holla.
What is your thought on Rocksteady former dev partnership with Xbox Game Studios on a new game at their new studios, 100 stars?
What a fantastic and pertinent question. So in case you are not aware of the little backstory with this, basically the guys that founded Rocksteady, who made the Arkham series, they were a pair of blokes, of gents, named Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker. And if I just Google them, Rocksteady founders, well, they'll have a picture here. No, they won't. Never mind. Just show me the pictures of the dudes. Sefton Hill, Jamie Walker. These two guys. Here we are. So these two guys founded Rocksteady, and they worked on Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League for years. And then in late 2022, they left. And the way it was phrased is, with Suicide Squad almost done, they've decided to leave and start a new, exciting adventure. Blah, 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 corporate speak. It looks like, I don't know if they saw the writing on the wall. I don't know if they were just like so pissed off with how the game was coming together that they bailed. I don't know if they got a big ass paycheck for making a live service game and decided to get out before the blowback hit. I don't know. It is crazy though that they were wrapping up production. They were like, yeah, the game's almost done, so we'll leave. It was supposed to release like months later. I think May of 23 it was supposed to release, and they left in December of the year prior. And then they delayed the game, almost a year, and it releases early 2024, and it's just shockingly sparse on content. It's just a mess. So how much of that is on them is not super clear. As like the guys that were at the head of the studio during the vast majority of production, I think they do deserve some of the blame for how the game came out. JMP. Of course, the people who made the worst game I've played in recent memory is ganging up with Xbox. Match made in heaven. Jesus Christ. So they've gone off. They made a new studio. This new studio is called 100 Star. And 100 Star is, let me pull up the archived link because Xputer is like way overly aggressive with the pop-up ads. So 100 Star was created by Rocksteady co-founders based in London, has about 100 employees. Studio's working on its first ever project with a AAA action adventure single player game. Sounds very similar to the Arkham series. Rocksteady co-founders did that, blah, blah, blah. They're working on the first thing, built in Unreal Engine 5. Unfortunately, not much else is known about this game, but the partnership has already been signed, and Xbox Game Studios is financing the studio's first project. The title is likely to be a platform exclusive, releasing in the imminent future for both Xbox consoles and PC, and it's expected that they're close to 100 employees. Out of those, more than 20 devs have joined our ex-Rocksteady. So this is one thing where people were like, the Rocksteady of old is no longer at Rocksteady. That's honestly probably fair, because what seems like happened is that when Jamie Hill and Sefton Walker left, they took like their most senior and valued team members with them, and they founded a new studio. And that's why everybody's been like, it really seems like Suicide Squad is the, like, it's the intern project. You know, it feels like that sometimes when you're seeing their updates and stuff. And that may unironically be the case. Like, it may actually be that it's just new hires that are trying to support the game now who have never done this before. So if the quality talent that made like Arkham Knight possible, if they left and are doing work over at this new studio, then that at least explains it a little bit more. Doesn't excuse Suicide Squad's state, but at least it explains it. Bing bang, Luke, no way you stood in line at a Target and paid $135 for the coffee mug. No, Luke, you are not that guy, pal. For the coffee mug? What coffee mug? $135 coffee mug. You mean one of like those Ember things? I do have an Ember mug, but it was like a Christmas present. Oh, no, this isn't a Stanley. This is a Yeti I've had for ages. On the streams, I use this all the time. No, it's not a Stanley. The Yetis are better than Stanley anyways. Shout out to Stanley, or shout out to Yeti. You couldn't catch me using a Stanley with a 10-foot pole and a net that's made to catch people drinking out of Stanleys. Yeah, people go crazy for Stanleys. What's funny is the Stanley craze apparently started in Utah with a group of Mormon moms. I watched a video where they like tracked it back to the first couple of videos that started the like Stanley trend, and it all went back to like some Mormon moms that were posting videos and stuff, which is just, it's just funny. And now you see the like target market of Stanley cups and you're like, oh, okay, yeah. Checks out. Yeah, the other thing I learned as part of that, I didn't realize this was the thing, but it apparently is. So, does anyone in chat live in Utah? This is a total tangent, but I'm just going to ask. Does anyone in chat live in Utah? Also, Glowing Eagle, thank you for the super chat. The Rumored Oblivion remaster will use dual engine approach, both UE5 and Gamebryo, allegedly. Is this synchronized or synergistic approach to something BGS should look into with the Elder Scrolls 6 with Creation Engine and UE5? That to me sounds more complicated, and I feel like Bethesda at this point needs the least complicated approach. So I don't think that would end well, but maybe it would. But I don't know. I don't know. That scares me. That scares me. Yeah, it'll keep it cool for a day or more with ice. Yeah, dude, I'll straight up make a coffee, put it in here, and then I'll forget the cup down here at the end of the day, at the end of the stream. and then I will come back upstairs and I'll go back down to the studio the next day for like filming videos or for another stream or whatever, and it's still completely full of ice and it's fine. It's magic. It's straight magic. But the reason I asked is because apparently in Utah, because it's overwhelmingly Mormon, they can't drink coffee. Coffee's a no-no. So the big thing in Utah is not coffee shops. Like in Colorado, it's all about coffee. It's soda shops. And so Quench It is a brand. Swig is a brand. Fizz with 2 I's. It's a premier specialty soda shop chain. Sodalicious. Sippin'. Like, I had no idea this was a thing, but apparently soda shops are like the coffee shop of Utah because they can't drink coffee. So it's all soda shops. Which, like, I had no idea. Like, I had no idea. So who knew, right? Who knew? But I was watching it and I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. That lines up. The Utah soda shop thing is getting out of control. Suds and soda car wash. It's just funny. It's just funny. Like, I had no idea. No idea. But apparently, like, people will move. So back in my old neighborhood, we were close to a Mormon temple. And so we'd have people that would move from Utah to Colorado, and they would move into our neighborhood because we were close to the temple. And those people would like come in, and within a week or two of, really, I mean, realistically, if they moved into the neighborhood, within like a few days, they would show up at your house with brownies and cookies and snacks that they've baked for you. And they're like, yeah, here's the stuff. Because the Mormon strategy of conversion is to just smother you with kindness. And so they bring you all these snacks. And I remember one of them talking to my mom and asking where the soda shops were, or what like her favorite soda shop was or something. And as a like teenager, I remember being like, I wonder what's a soda shop. Okay. And I didn't really think about it. And then when I watched these videos recently, that memory came flooding back and I was like, oh, and it all connected for me. It's like, that's what they meant by soda shops. So the more you know. There you go. Let's see. Do you guys have a Starbucks there? The brandy is not doing well in Europe. Yeah, we do have Starbucks all over Colorado. It's a problem. It's known that it's not like where you get the best coffee. If you want the best coffee, it's probably Ziggy's. Ziggy's is very, very good, but pricey. Human Bean is good, but it's really, really inconsistent. You'll get one coffee one day that's like the best thing you've ever had, and then the next day you'll get a coffee made by a different barista and it tastes like armpit water and it's just trash. So I don't really go to Human Bean because I'm like, if I'm gonna pay $5 for a coffee, it better be at the very least what I expected. But their consistency is horrible. They also, when you take orders, they don't write it down or like put it on a tablet or anything. You just say it to them and hope they remember what you said when they're making the drink. And most of the time they don't. I really don't like it. I'm like, just write it down. What's armpit water taste like, Luke? Elaborate. It's exactly what you would imagine. You know how you can look at anything in the world and imagine, and like, your tongue knows what the texture will feel like. Like, I can hold up like a piece of RAM, and weirdly enough, if you look at it, like, you know what that will feel like on your tongue when you lick it. It's weird, but like, look around you right now. Anything you look at in your room where you are, you weirdly know what the texture is going to be like. It's like that. You know what armpit water will taste like. You don't want to bring yourself mentally to go there, but that's it. You know, I like pennies. Good. Yeah. What? I totally lost my train of thought. Shocker. What was it? Oh, coffee. Yeah, Dutch Bros is also good too. But dear God, Dutch Bros is just pure sugar. Like, it's bad. It's bad. For me, so as an adult, and this isn't a surprise, I'm human, so I'm fine to talk about it. Also, Chuckles99, thank you for subbing with Prime over on Twitch. Thank you, my friend. My skin reacts extremely negatively to dairy and to sugar. If I do both of those at the same time, I will look like a walking pizza for a week, okay? And so, like one time, a month or two ago, I went out and with my wife and my 2-year-old and then our sub 1-year-old, we went to Dairy Queen. It was a cute little thing. The summer's getting going. So I was like, oh, we'll go get an ice cream cone. And I had one ice cream cone with like the little dollop or whatever from Dairy Queen. And for like the next week, my face was so broken out that it was bad. It was really bad. And like, this is after I've been to dermatologists. They've done all the special stuff on it. It's just really cut and dry. It's just, if I have sugar and dairy, especially in tandem, I'm screwed. And so Dutch Bros is like the worst possible thing for me. It tastes amazing, but if I drink any one of their drinks, I can't go on camera for a week. It's bad. It's real bad. Yeah. I prefer drinking Rain energy drinks every morning and shaking uncontrollably and having a panic attack to start my day. Oh, there you go, Ethan. There you go. Problem solved. I did. You guys know, back when we started doing the streams really consistently, I would get the Rain energy drinks in the big pallet things from Sam's Club. And I would drink one every morning to start my day. And they were delicious, but like, bad idea. Bad idea. Don't get hooked on that much caffeine. It's a mess. It's a mess. So, yeah. Okay, let's do this. Boo. Yeah, let's touch on the Xbox thing real quick. Let's do that. Ooh, Life Stream 1. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll let it read your message here in just a second. Otherwise, it's just going to read it anyways. I remember when Dutch Bros was the staple of the streams. Yeah, dude, it was bad. Like, I'd go all the time. All the time. It was like, it was nice because it tasted good. But dear God almighty, like, you eventually stop and you look at, like, you know how sometimes you can peek in and see the coffee shop when they're making your drink? You're like, so that's how they make it. If you go to Dutch Bros, you stick your head in and you see them making it, and it's just like the caramel sauce, just pump, and it's just like 2 inches of the stuff. And then they do like the little, it's basically a milkshake. They have like the separate dispenser that puts in the coffee blend or whatever. And again, it tastes amazing, but it's because it's basically a milkshake that has some coffee in it.
Livestream1 donated $20 through Super Chat.
Thank you, my friend.
Hi, Luke. Lurk here and there, but I appreciate your takes. Hot
Cheers.
take. Multiplayer integrity in games is pretty much dead. Better player? Nah, you're a cheater. Sweat. If a player can't
compete, then the game sucks and they quit. Yeah, I think it comes also.
98 donated €5 through Super Chat.
Oh yeah.
There is
yeah.
a rumor that 100 Star is making a game for Microsoft.
Yeah, Reinhardt, we actually just pulled it up and looked at it. It's not confirmed, but you'd think if it was not true, they would have come out and said it wasn't true. So I'm inclined to think it's probably the case. As for Livestream's question, I think it's just a reflection of the current market where there's just so many options. If me and my group of friends are playing, say, X Defiant, and we're just not having a fun time because we're getting stomped on by sweaty players because we're not very good, we can just go and play something like Overwatch 2 or something, and maybe occasionally run into a situation where we get stomped on, but we can at least have a decently competitive game, and it's pretty well balanced most of the time, and have more fun that way. You know, win some, lose some, but it's good balance. And I just think that that's a situation where some people at this point just don't really want to grind and play games that they're not enjoying for the sake of gaining some sort of prestige rank or badges or unique banner or whatever. A lot of people are just like, hey, I got work in the morning. I'm just going to play what I find fun. You know? What do you call these people sweaty players? It's just the term people use for, like, I mean, you've probably encountered them, but it's the types of players who have been like grinding ranked. They look up the guides for the best way to play this character and that character. They look up, you know, the best attachments and loadouts and everything. You know, it's the same thing as like try hard. They're trying really hard, and being a try hard is fine. You know, I'm a try hard with a fair few games myself, but it's like if you flip it around and you say with chess or something. Like, I, for years, was a try-hard in chess. I had a coach. I would read all the books. I'd practice, memorize all of my opening lines out to like 15 moves at least. I was a try-hard. But I would go to tournaments and be competitive, and it worked, you know? And sure, sometimes, you know, it might be fun to go and play at the local chess club and just stomp on people. But those people I was stomping on probably weren't having fun. And so it'd be fair for them to be like, you're a tryhard, chill out, you know? So I think at the end of the day, just like G-Man is saying in chat, the only metric that really at the end of the day matters for a lot of these games is fun factor. And the difficulty with skill-based matchmaking is that when you have it turned on, I would guess the extremes are much more pronounced or much less pronounced. So, you know, I guess if we do MS Paint, and I don't have the data to like demonstrate this, but it just kind of makes sense. So if we have skill-based matchmaking turned on, I would assume that the chart, and then we'll do no SBMM. Okay. So if you have skill-based matchmaking turned on, I think your average experience of players is going to be much more in the center. When you ask people to rate a game out of 10, it probably averages right down the middle around like 5 or 6. An average game, it was fine. You know, I didn't have a ton of fun, but I also didn't have a terrible time. It's just in the middle. Skill-based matchmaking being turned off, it seems much more like this, where you either are having a great time stomping on the other team, or you're having a terrible time because you're the one getting stomped on. And both experiences can harbor fine communities, you know? That's fine. But I think when these companies are trying to decide how do we keep millions of people engaged in the long term, this is a better way to go. Because with this, I'm more likely to play a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth match because it's close. Whereas over here, each time you end up in this group, the odds are pretty high you're just going to quit and you're going to go play something else where you will at least end up in the middle. Maybe even over here, but at least you'll end up in the middle. So, again, I understand why somebody would like turning off skill-based matchmaking because they like to be over here. That's fine. I get it. We all like stomping on people. But every time you end up over here, there has to be somebody over here. Unless you're playing against literal bots, which Fortnite does. It's sort of like the solution Epic Games came up with, which was just put bots in the match to fill in the gaps. So everybody ends up with like a few kills at least. They feel better about themselves. They don't realize that they killed a bot, but they still feel fine about it. You know, they still had a good time, and that's all that really matters. Yeah, exactly, Tiny. Just get good, bro. Yeah. It could just be balancing skill-based matchmaking. The way it is in COD is bad because it makes people not want to play after an hour. Yeah. I think it's also just the play styles. The way that COD is currently balanced, it's often very unbalanced. So if you know what the metas are, you are at a significant advantage. So if you're not the try-hard, you're not looking up guides, you're not staying in line and in tune with what the best weapons are and best metas are. If you're not doing that and you're just there to play the game after you get back from work, you're just not gonna have a very good time. It's like, you remember way back when with the DMR meta in Warzone, people called it DMR zone. 3 years ago. Is this it? Maybe this is it. Like, the gun was just so broken. Look how quickly it's tapping people. Like, look at that. So if you were not looking, Jesus, if you were not looking at the metas and you didn't know that the DMR was this good with this loadout, you'd be like, I'm not having any fun. I'm having zero fun. Nobody's going to claim that this was balanced. Jesus, dude. And then you see the guys that set up macros, and so they can fire these semi-auto guns at like fully automatic speeds. Like, that's outrageous. But I remember playing in DMR zone, and it was just a nightmare. Yeah, the Car 98 was king in Warzone for a long time. Yeah, those were the days, man, when you could actually snipe and it took skill. Man, now it just feels like everybody runs in with whatever that week's meta is, and if you don't have that meta enabled and equipped, you're just screwed. You can't be competitive. That's why I turned off of it, because I was like, it's too exhausting. Like, it's not my one game. It's not the only thing I do. So if I was like a Warzone streamer, maybe then I could justify it. But it seems like that's a lot of the appeal now, is that they're just trying to find ways to appeal to streamers playing the game and encouraging that loop of, you got to watch the streamer to find out what the meta is. And then once you know the meta, you can go in and be competitive, and then people will watch your stream. But until they're watching your stream, you need to be watching other streams. So it just spins and spins and spins, you know? Warzone was peak right when the pandemic hit. Yeah, it really did come out at the perfect time. It really did. Can't take that from them. Oh yeah, Kieran, I've got the story pulled up. We'll talk about that in a minute. Black Ops 6 live action trailer was fire. Yeah, the live action trailers are always pretty good. Always pretty impressed with them. Ezekiel Bias, thank you for subbing with Prime over on Twitch. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tom, thank you for that. Mantis, thank you for that. I'll let it read out. Otherwise, it will cut me off the second I start reading it. Like it almost just did. Let's see what Tom has to say.
Tom S. donated £10 through Super Chat.
Thank you, my
COD
friend.
on Game Pass will just incentivize more MTX, since they will treat it more like a free-to-play. Was bad enough how they prioritize Warzone over people paying full price.
Yeah, I'll let it read off this, and I'll work through them in order, just so.
Mantis donated $10
Nobody's
through
confused.
Super Chat. You uploaded a video yesterday where you said a major reason games are failing is because people are burnt on sequels, but in the top 10 selling games last year only one, Starfield, was original.
I'd have to see the exact quote of what I said. Because what I've said, at least what I've meant to say, is that just like in Hollywood, it's probably a stream clip. You're not talking about the Skull and Bones video. So it's a stream clip, so it'd be from stream on Monday. What do we talk about on Monday? I think it was the general reflection of the market in Hollywood. We talked about that with the games industry. So I think I know what you're referring to. Let me answer the first question, then we'll come back to it, Mantis. Tom, thank you for the 10. COD on Game Pass will just incentivize more microtransactions since they'll treat it more like a free-to-play. Without a doubt, they've got to pick up the slack somewhere. Bringing it to Game Pass day one loses out on a lot of sales on Xbox. Granted, Xbox is the smallest of the main console platforms, but it's still a lot. Millions and millions of people play Call of Duty on Xbox and would have bought the game. So they're losing out on that, but it's clearly a long-term play. Their goal is to get everybody who would have bought it to sign up for Game Pass, because there's a lot of people that only play Call of Duty. So there's no reason for them to really have Game Pass as is, right? And they weren't going to sign up because Starfield came to Game Pass. They weren't going to sign up because Hellblade came. They play Call of Duty. That's all they play. So Xbox's hope is that by bringing it to Game Pass, somebody will be like, wow, I don't need to spend $70, $80, $90, $100 on whatever edition of the game. I can just sign up for Game Pass for $15 and then I have access to the game. And over the course of a year, Microsoft will make more money off of their subscription than they would have if you just bought the game up front. But because of just the way that human psychology works, it feels better to save money up front. You know, even though long term, if you're playing Call of Duty every month for a year, you're going to spend more money with a subscription. It weirdly feels better to just pay $15 a month. This is why the buy now, pay later thing is a a thing, that makes billions of dollars. So it's clearly a long-term play. They want to build the habit where people are just used to staying subscribed to Game Pass year round, year after year after year, to play Call of Duty. That's their goal. So I can't, of course, everybody who is going to do that, if you really only play Call of Duty, just buy the game. If you really need to buy it, just buy the game and don't do the subscription, because you'll waste and spend more money. But I would expect that this is one of the key growth strategies they have for Game Pass. Because if they can get 1 million, 2 million new signups of people that only play Call of Duty that weren't going to sign up for Game Pass ever before, but now there's a real reason for them, especially if they start doing stuff with exclusive skins and exclusive cosmetics. If you're a Game Pass subscriber, you better believe they're going to do all of that stuff, all of it. So I think they're going to be pushing it pretty hard. I'm just surprised with this story. Nobody there were a lot of people acting like this was a surprise. Wow, they actually did it. I was like, guys, they spent $70 billion. Yeah, of course. Yeah, they're bringing it to Game Pass. I didn't think it was ever really in question, but I guess for some people it was. Mantis, thank you for that 10, by the way. As for the clip, I'd have to see what I said in the clip specifically, but it's sort of the weird what's the word I'm looking for? Dissonance, cognitive dissonance. That's the term I was looking for. So it's the weird cognitive dissonance where people are we want more original stuff, but then they continue to buy the sequels or go to the movies that are the sequels. And I think that there are always going to be instances where you can look at something like Call of Duty or a Diablo 4 or something like that, and you can say, well, those are sequels and they were the biggest games of the year. And that is true. what we see in the gaming industry and also in the film space is that we see kind of two opposing narratives. You see that people say they don't want more spin-offs, they don't want constant sequels, they say all of that stuff, but then they get what they are seemingly asking for and they don't really support it monetarily, except in random instances, or semi-random instances. So they might say like, we don't want more sequels, we want original content. But then you get an original film and it flops and everybody's like, oh, well, yeah, it didn't look interesting. It's like, okay, well, there's that. Or like, we want to bring back Prince of Persia in a creative way that's not just Assassin's Creed. So Ubisoft develops this like 2D side scroller that's a really, really good game, but it flops. Like they tried to deliver what people said they wanted and it just didn't go anywhere. And then at the same time, you end up with sequels that sell well. So there's like with all this, it's much more complicated than I'm sure me as a dumb streamer can communicate in a live stream clip. But there's two like opposing narratives that are going on in the film industry and in the game industry where the like audience is saying one thing and their behaviors don't necessarily reflect that, except sometimes they do. Like it's just odd. Like right now with Furiosa, the Mad Max, it's a prequel, right? That film just dropped to like the worst Memorial Day launch of any film in the last like 29 years. Like worst opening day for Memorial Day ever, and or in the last few decades. And it's a huge failure for them. And it's also following in this same universe. People said that they might want another film in that franchise, but now that it's flopping, people are like, yeah, well, we didn't want a sequel, you know?
Through Super Chat. My bigger issue with COD is the people that watch full-time streamers to figure out the special way to cheese around every window in every building. Most of us ain't got time for research like that.
I agree, Total, and I think it's also why Warzone worked when it dropped initially, because it was new, it was fresh. Nobody knew like the best strategies for loadouts. Nobody really knew the strategies for pinwheeling around the map. Nobody really knew the cheeses. Nobody really knew the ways to get in the buildings the fastest. Like players have just gotten better, and I don't think you can undo that. Like it just is what it is now. Players are just better. So I think that's certainly the case. But like, you remember when Warzone dropped, everybody sucked at first. You go back and watch some of those clips of the game when it first dropped and the people playing it, and you're like, wow, we really have come a long way. The average player is already way better than like even the professional streamers were, you know, when that game first dropped. But it's because we all just got really into it and we all grinded it. But yeah, Mantis, all of that to say, there's some franchises which I think have transcended like it's not even really sequels anymore. It's just part of an ongoing like updating monster. Like Call of Duty, I don't think anybody really thinks of Black Ops 6 as like a totally standalone release. It's just like a weirdly morphed version of last year's game. Same with FIFA, same with Madden, same with all these like NBA games. Sure, you could say technically speaking they are sequels, but they're just like an altered version of the monster that's already been created. So I think the lesson from all of it though is just that I don't think gamers really know what they want, but they know what they're getting they don't like, you know? And that's the toughest thing for the games industry to grapple with. Like, I don't think anybody really knew that they wanted something like Elden Ring until they got it. Like the idea of go back to like 2014, 15, when pre-production would have started on Elden Ring. So you go back, you put yourself in the realm of 2015, 2014, and you're like, yeah, we're going to have a very, very difficult game with, you know, action RPG elements and stuff. And it's basically just an ocean of bosses. And we're not really going to tell you where to go or what to do. It's just going to be totally open-ended and you just figure it out yourself. like for a lot of people, they would have been like, I like the way that Bloodborne did it. Much more linear. Keep it like that. You know, if you just purely took what was being said, we wouldn't have gotten that innovative game. So perhaps more than anything, it's just a reflection of the problem with games by committee and entertainment by committee, and then also not having visionaries in charge. Like, if you don't have visionaries in charge that can see what gamers want before they even know they want it, you're just not going to get very far. Nobody knew they wanted Fortnite. Yeah. Nobody knew they wanted Helldivers. Even people who knew what Helldivers was before it launched didn't think it was going to be that big. And then it just exploded. Same with Pal World. Like, we had all heard stories of like, well, it's kind of like Pokemon, but like survival elements. We were all like, okay, whatever. And then Pal World exploded. So people realized, oh, this is actually pretty fun and we're having a good time. And why didn't Nintendo do that? You know, it just, or not Nintendo, Game Freak. So I think you just, it's like that George Lucas interview thing that he said the other day. George Lucas. It's probably one of the recent stories. Maybe this.
Guy Loken is
I
now
don't
a
see
member.
it. Thank you, Guy Loken. Where was it? Maybe I don't have it. He just recently did an interview where he was saying that, you know, Star Wars or everybody in Hollywood now is not, like, they're not actual creatives. They don't have any really novel concepts. They don't have a vision. They're just pumping out what they think will make money, and it doesn't actually succeed in creating innovative concepts. You think back to like the 1980s, like George Lucas has been responsible for some of the most crazy successful films ever and film franchises ever. I mean, literally, like, involved with Indiana Jones. The other one would be like Steven Spielberg. You just look at Steven Spielberg's list of films. It's outrageous. Like Jaws, Close Encounters, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., Indiana Jones, Color Purple, Indiana Jones again, Hook, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Lost World, Jurassic Park, Saving Private Ryan, Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can, War of the Worlds, Indiana Jones, we'll forget about that one, Adventures of Tintin, Warhorse, Lincoln, Bridge of Spies, like so many of these iconic films, and they all are coming from like one guy. But it's just because you need visionaries like that to come in and give people something they didn't know they wanted. And there just aren't that many of those people out there. Or if there, I mean, honestly, there are just as many out there as there ever have been, but they are seemingly not being given the resources to do that. Yeah, Doom of Sudan. Oh God, that Indiana Jones movie. What were they thinking? Well, remember, like, that's where the memes started, where it's like the treasure was the knowledge we gained along the way, or whatever the line was. And now it's an actual meme where it's like, oh yes, the PlayStation 5 Pro was the friends we made along the way. It's terrible. It's just awful. I understand why they were trying to do it. They're like, for an alien species, knowledge would be the most valuable thing over resources. If you can go to any planet you want in the galaxy, resources aren't important. Like gold, crystals, doesn't matter. But knowledge is invaluable. I get thematically why they said it, but it just, in a movie like that where he's a treasure hunter basically, and then there's just nothing there. It's like, that's an actual line? Yeah, dude, I'm gonna get copyright struck if I show it. No, they've scrubbed it on YouTube. Okay, well, oh well. It's like the city of gold. Knowledge is the true gold. Na, 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 na. Yeah. Indy, the treasure is here. Look in the mirror. And then they pat him right on the heart. It was inside you all along. Boo! Boo! It's just, that's terrible. Oh, God. It's the same thing with like a lot of like these visionaries, though. I agree, should not be writing dialogue. The example it makes me think of. Let's see if I can find the original clip. Yeah, this old clip. The one line of dialogue he begged George Lucas to take out of Star Wars. This is exactly how I feel about Hideo Kojima's writing. I think Hideo Kojima is an example of somebody that is a visionary. I think clearly and demonstrably he's able to put things together that you look at it on paper and you're like, really? That's what we're doing? And then it comes together and you're like, oh, okay. You know, he's got that visionary side to him. That does not mean he's good at everything, and it does not mean he's good at dialogue. This is exactly how I feel with Kojima dialogue.
Dialogue was a little bit difficult. I remember there was one line that I just begged him to take out of the screenplay, and he finally did. And it's when, the line? Yes, boy, I'll never forget it as long as I live. I sometimes dream about this line. It was just coming upon the exploded planet of the princess, right. Alderaan, and it's totally been blown away. And Harrison says, look, kid, I've done my part of the bargain. When I get to an asteroid, you, the old man, and the droids get dropped off. And my line was, but we can't turn back. Fear is their greatest defense. I doubt if the actual security there is any greater than it was on Aquilai or Solus. And what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault. And I thought, who talks like this, George? I mean, this is really not fair because, you know, we're the ones that are going to get vegetables thrown at us.
But it's true. Like, sometimes these visionaries, like all that dialogue he just said makes sense and is probably going on in Luke's mind, does not make sense in the context of the emotional set piece and scene. You know, it just doesn't work. So that's how I feel about that. But that's why, like, George Lucas, he had, I believe it was his wife helping him write the original scripts and stuff. A lot of people said that that's why the prequels sucked, because she wasn't involved there. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's just rewriting history, but I know that types like George Lucas or Hideo Kojima, they work their best when they have somebody that can kind of keep rough guide rails on them, because they're just, you know, it's like somebody that's bowling, and the way they bowl is they blindfold themselves and they just chuck it and it's bouncing all over. If you don't have the little bumper rails, it's gonna go into the gutter a handful of times, maybe even the majority of the time. But if you have those rails up, it's much easier for them to get a strike and use that ferocity with which they threw the ball, or the bowling ball, to actually get a strike. So I just think visionaries often need somebody to keep them in check. The other example is like Steve Jobs at Apple. Steve Jobs almost drove Apple into the ground. And there's an old story where, you know, Steve Jobs, as a visionary in the 80s and everything, he made this computer, Apple Lisa computer. It was called the Lisa, and it was freakishly expensive. Development of Project Lisa began in 1978, and it underwent many changes and shipped at $9,995. That's a lot in 2024. In Adjusted for inflation, though, that's $30,000 in 2023 with a 5 megabyte hard drive. Oh, baby. So Steve Jobs, as this visionary, he's like, this is the computer of the future. This is going to be amazing. This is great. And it was effectively, in modern money, about $30,000. Nobody bought it. And it was tanking the company. It was a disaster, an absolute disaster. You can see now they're collector's items. And, you know, people collect them. They're still worth like 10 grand, which is funny. But adjusted for inflation, they're worth a third of what they effectively were worth when you bought it. But Steve Jobs was driving Apple into the ground. And so he left the company. And then Steve Jobs started working on a new company. And it was a company called Next. Is this not the most 90s thing you've ever seen in your life? He also invested a ton of money into a small startup that you might recognize named Pixar. That's actually where Steve Jobs got his money and became a billionaire. It was from Pixar. It was not from Apple. Apple, he got paid like $1 a year when he came back, but he made his billions from Pixar and the overwhelming success of Pixar. But anyway, he came back eventually and started trying to revolutionize the company, because in the context of Apple, after Steve Jobs left, they brought in a new CEO. A new CEO called John Sculley. And John Sculley took over in 1983, and he was a former Pepsi executive, and he just drove the company into the ground. Like he was not a visionary. He didn't really know what he was doing, but he understood how to like keep supply chains moving and how to keep prices competitive and negotiate with manufacturers and stuff. He knew all of that side of the business, but he didn't have any vision. So he just started driving the company into the dirt, just absolutely tanking it. So then they bring Steve Jobs back. And he starts launching these products called like the iMac. You know, with this famous picture of him sitting on it. That thing weighs like 80 pounds, so it's impressive he can hold it. But he launches this, and you can see how the product changed as the years went by. And he started launching iPods, and then he launches the iPhone, and it takes off. But what was the difference? Why was Steve Jobs a categorical failure in the 80s trying to do this work, but successful in the 2000s? And it actually has to do with one dude you might know and you might recognize. A guy that was the COO of Apple for Steve Jobs and was instrumental in making Apple successful. A little fella by the name of Tim Cook. He's why, and a few other things, you know, also Steve, I think, matured a lot, but he's one of the big reasons why he was successful. In Walter Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs, great book, by the way, you should read it if you haven't. He kind of discusses some of the dynamics of how Steve was working when he came back to Apple and later in life before he passed away in 2011. And it's just clear, like, Steve was one of those guys that needed somebody to keep him in line, somebody to balance his crazy creative energy with the grounded, practical perspective. And if you don't have that balancing force on a wild creative force, they go too far and they don't know how to keep things in check and balances. And they'll make a $30,000 computer and they're so out of touch they don't understand why that wouldn't be successful. But then somebody like Tim Cook can come in and be like, well, actually, our margins are like this, and we need to target the Chinese market, and it's going to be the most innovative project ever created. Like, you need somebody like that for somebody like Steve Jobs. And I think you also need somebody like that with somebody like Kojima or George Lucas. You got to have the balancing force, in my humble opinion. balancing force, none of that matters. There's a good and bad CEO, and Steve Jobs is just a bad CEO. I don't think that that's the case. I think there are good CEOs for certain situations, and that same CEO could be good in this company at this stage in its life, and he could be terrible as CEO in that same company at a later stage in life. Just some businessmen are good at certain very particular situations and managing companies in those, but when things scale differently, they're terrible. Like Tim Cook is not somebody you want when you're doing a startup. Like, he's not going to take any risks. He's going to do the same product 15 times in a row and tweak it ever so slightly, but he's going to milk it for all it's worth. That's what he's good at. He's not the guy you want when you're trying to create a startup, but he's a phenomenal, literal world-class CEO in a different situation. Steve Jobs is somebody you probably want when you're trying to do a startup or really reinvent a business, because he'll take crazy risks and do crazy things. Same thing with, like, you know, an Elon Musk type character. Elon Musk, he's just absolutely crazy, but he runs things like he's running a startup. He will fire an entire department simply because he's mad that they didn't listen to him. That's not something you can do when you're running $1 trillion business, but you know, it's just, I guess when you're trying to push for a $56 billion payday like Elon is, it works. I thought Ashton Kutcher ran Apple. That's why he stopped 2.5 Men, right? It's all connected. It's all part of it.
The Beard Machine donated $3. With the rise of accessible game engines and YouTube tutorials, it seems like most of the visionary, creative people are working on indie games and either bypassing or leaving the AAA studios.
Yeah, and we've even seen that. I did that video looking at the former BGS dev. Former BGS dev indie game. Where is he? Former Bethesda. If I say it like that. Yeah, just Perky Games. This guy.
A lot of people ask me what.
If you don't know this guy, he's in the like making of Fallout 76 documentary. He worked at BGS for ages, and he's left and he's making his own indie game fully himself. It actually has a kind of cool art style. There are no textures in the game at all. It's all just like different materials, and then the texture of the actual terrain using Unreal Engine is what makes it look like it has textures. But yeah, he's actually working on his own little indie game. So I do think that there's, with the advent of a lot of these tools, it's easier than ever to push this stuff. And for creative types to go out and just do their own thing. So certainly I think that's the case. A Todd defector. Yeah. Sleep with a gun at night. You never know. Okay. And thank you for the tip. Appreciate you. Thank you. Okay. So let's touch on this real quick. Enough about Steve Jobs and all that. Okay. Star Citizen. Oh, I'm so sorry. News segment. Star Citizen has officially passed the $700 million mark of funds raised. You can actually go to their website, see this. If you go over to like development and then funding, that tab there, you can see the stats. They are at $703 million raised. That's crazy. And with 5.2 million Star Citizens, if we just do 703,032,309 divided by the total number of supporters, There's an average spend per person of $134. And that's crazy. The starter bundle is $45. I've only spent $45 on this game to get access to it to film videos. That's it. I've never spent a penny more than that. And I think there's a lot of other people that are also in the same spot. So, you know, if 1 million of these 5 million people have only ever spent like 45, and we walk this back and, you know, maybe it balances out to like, you know, 703 million, and maybe we only go 42. Like, there's people that have spent hundreds of dollars on this. There's the old example, Gus, I can't remember his last name, Gus something, from Rooster Teeth. Gus Sorolla. This guy, I remember years ago seeing him on an episode of The Know. Do you guys remember that show, The Know? It was like one of their shows. It was just a game news update show. But he was on that hosting an episode one day. And I remember seeing the episode, and this was probably 2016, 17. You know, I was early in college when I was watching this. You know, my YouTube channel, I had maybe like 1,000 subs or something, like nothing. And I remember watching this video, and they were talking about Star Citizen, which of course back then still hadn't released. And everybody was like, yeah, they're probably a few years out from launch. It's aged like milk. But they were saying that. And I remember Gus saying that he had spent like thousands of dollars on the game already. He was like, well, I just love that space stuff. I love that space stuff. So yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of money on it. I wonder if I could find that actual clip. The Know Star Citizen. Oh man, there's shorts. It's videos, filters. This year, last hour. No, it's like years ago. Upload date inverted though. Nope. God dang. Okay, so I don't think we're gonna find it, honestly. I don't think we're gonna find it. Is The Know even still up? Did they shut down the channel? Largest game ever made? Oh, maybe is this it? Oh, maybe this is it.
Sweeper, because you're going to need all that space on that solid state of yours.
Yeah, that's actually popped out because some forum members
2015.
are concerned that the install size will completely blast away their monthly allotment of bandwidth downloading through the internet.
Right, but this might not be the game for them. This is for people who will spend $300 on a ship, right, Gus?
Hey, don't judge me, man. It's totally worth it. I can look at pictures of it online right now.
Gus, are you worried about downloading this game because it's so big?
No, I mean, do people really have shitty internet still? I mean, get better internet.
So like, they're not saying exactly how much he had spent on it, but they're making fun of him for how much money he spent on it.
Shit, okay, all right, well, that's pretty good.
Well, we also just found out that Star Citizen is big in another way, a much more important way, in fact.
Okay.
The install size.
All right, yeah, so a post from Star Citizen developer, jmaster_CIG, estimates that the final install size of the game will be 100 gigabytes.
Oh,
100! Right now, like Xbox One games around 40.
Oh,
so this is 100 gigabytes.
Oh, better.
That's funny that they're all freaking out about that now. This is from 2015. Okay, so 2015, March of 2015 is when they're filming this. That's crazy. That's crazy, dude. That's so funny. Anyway, so I remember seeing these videos and clips of these guys talking about it. Like March of 2015, I was still technically in high school. Let that settle in, okay? So I remember hearing them talk about it, and it was still so far off. It was like, we'll see whenever that happens. Did they say in this how much money they've raised though? I wonder in 2015 how much they had raised. Oh, Gus has a whole segment.
No!
That doesn't make any sense.
You spend hours customizing your autoexec.bat? Fuck that.
Star Citizen reviving that culture, producing a game that really pushes the limits of existing technology and is even designed around hardware that doesn't exist yet. Gus doesn't have it, so it doesn't exist.
So since we have our resident expert on Star Citizen, Gus, on the line, we do have to ask you a question, Gus. Why did you spend $2,000 on this video?
In 2015, he had spent $2,000.
Brandon Reyes donated $4.99 through Super Chat. They just came out with a $70,000 ship bundle. I think they don't care about releasing. The longer it stays in dev, the longer people will buy the ships.
Yeah, but I mean, to play devil's advocate, they probably sell even more ships when the game is fully out and when you can actually fly the ships you buy. Like, the game isn't even officially out yet. I mean, there is something to say maybe this is all like, you know, it's a game that will never fully release. It'll always only ever get updates and patches and stuff. And they can get away with selling these things now under the guise of like, it's a work in progress. Whereas when it's fully released, certain like bugs and issues like that are unacceptable. But I don't know. It's an interesting theory. Either way, it's very weird. It's very, very weird. Yeah. Yeah, but just imagine this. Oh, yeah, that's a good question, Shref 2K. Let's look. What if I invested? Calculator. Let's see. I might have to log in. Yeah, what if he invested that 2,000 in 2015 into like, let's see. What if how much money would I have today if I invested $2,000 in March of 2015 into Nvidia stock? Assume I reinvested dividends and did not sell. Let's see. So today you would have roughly $91,000. Oops. Oops. Yeah, what if I bought Bitcoin? Wow. So if he bought Bitcoin, he would have roughly $550,000. Now, granted, hindsight is 2020. But as long as we're flushing money down the drain, buying things that literally don't exist, why not buy Bitcoin at that point? So sorry to make you feel bad, Gus. We love you, but he's spent in 2015, it was at 2,000. I think later in like 2016, 17, in the clips I saw, he was saying that he had spent like another $800 on a ship. He had said like he had spent a lot. This is why I feel really bad anytime I like buy much of anything, because I am like terminally thinking about investment returns, which is probably good. Kids my age tend to just buy sports cars once they start making good money. I go on, they're not a sponsor. I'll just show you this. I go on and I invest in like, you know, the stock market also. But I also invest with like Masterworks, where you can buy fractional shares of paintings and stuff and like high art. So like I own shares of a Banksy. I own shares of like a Monet. I own shares of a Warhol, like a bunch of famous paintings and stuff. And so I I get excited at the outset or at the idea of buying something that will be worth more in the future, like, you know, stocks or ETFs or shares, fractional shares of high art. But yeah, it's good. It's fun. Nice plugin. I wish I were sponsored by them, but no, I just give them money. How's that not a scam? It's how it works is that they buy, what Masterworks does is they have their art staff and they buy a painting, like say a Banksy for $3 million. And then they go in and they break it up into $20 shares. And then they list that through the SEC, just like you would list a corporation, but it basically has its own shell company to own the painting. And then they sell shares to investors in their network. And so those investors, when Masterworks chooses to sell the painting through Sotheby's or Christie's or whatever other auction house, and it sells for $5 million, they take their little like 1.5% fee, and then any of the other $2 million in profit get divvied up among the rest of the investors. Do they ever sell? Yeah, they've sold like 20 or 30 paintings at this point. They cycle through them. You also have to be like an accredited investor to even buy shares with them. You have to do like a whole interview process. It's crazy. You still can't touch the art. You actually can. They have a gallery in New York City. And if you invest with them, you can go and walk the gallery and see all the paintings that you've bought and everything. You own like $2,000 of a $3 million painting. So of course you can't like lick it or anything, but you know, you do technically own a share, you know, it's just kind of cool.
Video game.
Whoa. Let's be honest. Let's calm down here. I've only spent $350 on the game so far.
All right, you know, games are $60, right? Because you're aware of that?
It's $350 for
Wait. What a picture right there, dude. Oh, God.
a game I can't really play yet.
Yeah, that's true.
You paid for an idea.
What are you hoping the game will be?
I believe I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm gonna fly around. I'm gonna get my friends in my giant spaceship, and we're gonna go fuck shit up.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Can you have Eve online?
Not really.
Gus, were you aware that they had a party at PAX East for Star Citizen and you were not invited?
That is a little upsetting. I didn't know about that. I'm gonna go talk to them. I'm setting up for South by Southwest right now, and their booth is right over there, so I'm gonna go have some words with them in a bit.
Well, hold on, Gus. Say it's just a 100 gigabyte WAV file of Chris Roberts farting. How would you feel about that?
Is there a smell delivery system?
Oh my God. Dude, this is why doing videos with your friends who have pictures like this and dirt on you like this, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous game to play, man.
Yet.
It doesn't exist yet, but it's an 8K.
Yeah, it's an
8K aromas.
Anyway, with all that said, the hype has gotten to all of us.
Me, yeah, it's gotten to me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna buy the shit out of this game.
Actually pretty interested.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I don't know if we're gonna spend $350 like
Nope.
Uncle Gus, but
We're not gonna do that.
So by Spool's logic, I have to play this game for 350 hours. Is that how this
Absolutely.
works?
Absolutely. It is doable. That's
If it's that good, but we don't know because it's not out. It doesn't have anything.
yeah, we won't know for at least another year, I'm assuming.
oh, and
At least another year. Again, 2015, ladies and gentlemen. That's so funny. Oh, man.
so like we said at the beginning of the episode, you can actually check in on the website in real time to see how much money has come into Star Citizen.
Let's find out.
Since we started filming about 10 minutes ago,
find
let's
out.
see where we're at.
And
We are now at $75,006,505.
so they made how much money?
$400.
They made $400 in about 7 minutes.
What are you doing
I
with
want
your
that
life?
job, Bruce.
Yeah, well, how the fuck? Whatever.
Yeah,
We all
1.5
talked over each
Gus's.
other.
Please like and subscribe to stay in the know if you want to watch more of the know, including me, Adam, and Gus. Thank you, Gus.
They all.
Have fun at the party.
Oh, my God. Dude, they did him so dirty. Wow.
In the know.
Why
if you
do
wanna
these
watch more of the
pictures
know, including
exist?
Me, Adam, and Gus. Thank you, Gus.
Wow, dude, 2015 was a crazy time. 2015 was a crazy time. Like, wow. But that vibe doesn't exist anymore. Now, like, you go to these types of pages and you know, it's like let's talk about like video game news and stuff. And then you just get like a rant from somebody lecturing you about how you're a bad person. And you're like, I just wanted to talk about video games. And you're like, please leave me alone, please. I will defend Frosk a tad. I don't think Frosk was entirely responsible for blowing up G4. But I do think that rant reminded everyone why they didn't really care to begin with. You know? Old YouTube was awesome, but also wild AF. Yeah, that's the vibe. That's the vibe. Those videos, you couldn't make those anymore. I'll tell you what. But, yeah, I mean, all of that to say, if you're wondering who spends that much money, we know for a fact somebody like Gus, who is a public-facing figure, has admitted openly he spent thousands of dollars. Thousands. So you gotta wonder how many people are out there that have spent money that are not public facing, for one. And also there's a lot of people that probably have spent money that don't like want to admit it. You know, like for me, I can show you guys, like when we play the game on stream, you guys can see that I don't own ships that are hundreds of dollars. Like I don't have that. But there's a lot of people that will play games like this and spend way too much money and won't share their accounts, won't show their accounts to get anything like spoiled or revealed or anything, you know? Again, classic example. Classic example is actually very relevant. Like DSP just 2 days ago spent $1,700 on a WWE mobile game to place 30th in an event. $1,700 in a mobile game. So I know it's easy for us to look at this stuff and be like, how do people spend $700 million collectively on a game that isn't even out yet? Just remember, there are people that spend thousands of dollars on mobile games. Just like there's people that will spend thousands of dollars on a ship when Gus was buying it in 2015 that only had concept art. At least now, a lot of the stuff that you can get in Star Citizen, you can actually play with immediately. Like this ship, you know, the paint job on it, this stuff you can actually use. But there's also a lot of ships in here that you can't, that are just concepts. Like this one, I think is real. This one you can actually, yeah, flight ready. So you can actually play with this ship in the game. And I think people actually, when we played together, I think people were actually using this ship when they came. If any of you guys were here on those streams, when I played, I did a stream and a bunch of you guys who have played Star Citizen came out and actually traveled to meet me on the planet that I happened to be on. And you all brought your ships to show me. It was super, super cool. How much is it? Let's see. Do they even say? RSI... $315. $300. Man. Was Gus there? Who knows? Maybe. That's crazy. 315. And like I've heard people, because when we did those videos on this, people were saying, oh, well, Luke, it's because it's such a big ship, you'll need a crew to run it. And so realistically, what you're doing is you are buying a you're buying a game or a thing for a game that your friends will use, and so you need everybody to pitch in. So really, it's not $300, it's 300 divided by a crew of 10. So it's really only $31 a piece. It's like, it's still $300, dude. Even if you're having other people that you play with split the cost, it's still $300 or $315. Like, it doesn't change the price tag just because you split it up more. Can you imagine Nikki comes to me, Luke, did you spend $100,000 on a car? And I'm like, well, no, you see, it's fine because I broke it up into monthly payments. So over the next 15 years, since I got a second mortgage for it, I'll be paying monthly. So really it's only like I'm spending $800 a month. It's like, it's still $100,000, dumbass. It just doesn't make any sense. You can justify anything however you want, but it doesn't change the core facts, you know? It's like, just because you finance something or split it up doesn't mean that it's cheaper. It makes it feel better, but you're still spending that total amount of money. That's why like car dealerships will break it up and be like, you know, you are, they'll ask you what your monthly budget is. Instead of how much money do you want to spend on a car, they'll say, what's your monthly budget? Because then they can factor in the high interest rate. They can factor in all of that stuff. And it can be quite sneaky, quite sneaky. And then all of a sudden you're overpaying for a car, but you feel better about it, you know? Yeah, if you do Terry math, yeah, Terryology. Dude. 1 × 1 = 2. What did he say? I've unwrapped the flower of life. Do you want to read? Do you want to read some of these comments? Dude, there's a lot. I told you guys that people have come in and they specifically search out Terrence Howard interviews and videos, and they just flood the comment sections trying to explain how all of this works. Like, look at this. These are the most recent comments on that video. Maybe we call this like the Terrence Howard fans flood Luke's channel or something, Jacob. Terrence is a genius. I believe his research. You see, research you shouldn't have to believe. It should be demonstrable. The people that are crazy are the ones calling him crazy. Is that crazy? Howard actually made some crazy discoveries. He is right. How can something multiplied with nothing equal nothing? Like they just don't understand math. Trolls, some of them are trolls. Some of them. Some of the others are like all caps. And yeah, can you Terrence, can you lend me 2,000 × 1 please or something? Let's see. There was one comment that was like all caps and like filled with misspellings. Yeah, how many cells are in the comment section here to discredit him? What? What? Where is it? Well, this one isn't the one I was thinking of. People that don't get won't get it. Makes sense with the universe. If you go off what we know, of course he looks insane. Anybody who has opened their third eye will understand this. We don't align with the universe. The connection with our creator is being broken and has since the Rothschilds became rich. We're gonna kill ourselves. Think how much the world would be different and good if money wasn't a thing, if greed wasn't a thing. We all live to help each other. I hope AI forces this. We need it to happen. We need a parent figure to get us back on track. You know, if you take what we know, he looks crazy. To anyone who has opened their third eye, they'll understand. They don't align with the universe connection. Okay, they just copy and pasted it. Like what? Oh yeah, that guy on your video talks too much shiz. I'll love to see him face to face with Terrence and see if he's smart enough to debate about science maths frequencies. Oh man, it's just shocking. He built the planet without gravity. Yeah. If he was Caucasian, it wouldn't be a conversation or insult whatsoever. Yes, it would. The actual guy, so the what Terrence Howard believes in, his whole thing is something called the electric universe. An electric universe is a like conspiracy theory made up, full of nonsense. Like it's not the case. It ties in a lot with like flat earthers and stuff like that. But basically it's a collection of people that think that they understand the universe better than like every scientist currently on the world today, thinking everything like gravity is an electromagnetic force and all sorts of stuff like that. And then it's a lot of science woo-woo stuff where you use big words and you just throw it out, you know, you just throw it out and you get people that end up believing you because they don't understand anything. Debate him, simple, be interesting. Yeah, like, okay. If you know what, your mind is closed. Like, that's one that could be just a troll. Your mind is closed. Yeah, people are starting to understand what Terrence is saying now and siding with him. Everyone doubting him is starting to look stupid. Funny how you said he made a fool of himself. I think the tables will turn on you. It's scary how people ridicule and attempt to make a mockery of anyone with a different opinion. That is so damaging to scientific evolution. He thinks 1 × 1 is 2. Like, that is not a difference of opinion. He's just wrong. Like, it's not that complicated. Like, what's more likely? What's more likely? That he is one of the greatest minds who has ever lived, has unwrapped the flower of life, has reinvented math, and everyone who doubts his genius is just a moron, even the most intelligent people in the universe. And that also 1 × 1 = 2, even though it's not demonstrable with traditional math. Or he's just an actor who's an idiot and thinks he's really smart. What's more likely? Like, what's more likely? Yeah, didn't they call Galileo a lunatic and a heretic? He may well be crazy, but crazy ideas are what is needed in a world that is becoming less interesting. What? It's less interesting because we're understanding it more. So we need more crazies, you know? Like, what? Crazy how you guys can dedicate so many minutes of disproving nothing the day you realize there's no such thing as laws of maths and science, but parts of creation, new things, constant movement. You will move away from just seeing yourself as professor of disproving. What? What? It's stunning. You speak in definites like Sith do. Let go, control freak. I'm like, it's like, oh, did you hear? Luke said 1 × 1 = 1. Wow, what a control freak. It's just amazing. Like, it's actually stunning. I kind of want to do more videos covering stuff like that, just to like go fishing for the wackos, because it's so crazy. Like, I thought for sure, like, if anything, we could all agree that that's wrong, that 1 × 1 does not = 2. But no, apparently not. Yeah, it's Terrence Howard, not a persecuted Aristotle analog. He was playing a junkie rap star in a movie a few years ago, not learning string theory. Yeah, no, and it's the height of the Dunning-Kruger effect. And if you don't know what that is, it is spelled out super frequently in like with flat earthers. And it's a really simple chart. And it's just a graph like this, where this is experience, and this is like your confidence. Okay? Confidence. Okay, kind of ran out of room. But so the higher you are over here, the better your confidence is. Over here, the more experienced you are. The Dunning-Kruger effect is something that basically says that everybody starts up here when they just start trying something. And then the more experienced they are, they realize how little they actually know. And then they become experts again. So people who are like flat earthers are over here. And this would be like Terrence Howard. He has no experience. He has no idea what he's talking about, but he's very confident about it. Same with flat earthers. Like the old thing where they hold up the ball and they're like, tell me how a helicopter could take off in Australia and not fall off the planet. And you're like, you just have no, like, you don't understand like gravity. Like there's just, you're not even wrong. You're just so far off. This is crazy. And so this is often what happens where you have somebody with no experience at all, but they think that they're geniuses. And then as they study it, you know, this is maybe like your 4-year degree. And then this is your master's degree. You're like, oh God, I really don't know much. And then your PhD and then years of experience in the field. You know, I thought I understood finance pretty well going into school because I was probably up here, but I was actually incompetent. I actually had no idea what I was talking about, but I thought I did. And then as time goes by, you study it, you finish your 4-year degree and you're down here and you're like, I understand very little of all of this. And I've been studying it for years. And then you study it some more and you're starting to feel more confident. Like, okay, I know a lot about this, but I'm no crazy expert yet. You get your PhD, you're like, okay, I really know my stuff. Then you get the real world experience and you're the actual expert. But the Dunning-Kruger effect is just when people think that they are there when they're not. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad that feeling less confident about my field that I just got a bachelor's in isn't a bad thing. Yeah, well, it just shows that you understand what you don't understand. You know, like what is it? Like the fool or the wise man knows what he doesn't know, and the fool doesn't know what he doesn't know. In other words, the wise man knows his shortcomings, knows where his information and knowledge stops, doesn't overstep it, doesn't pretend to know things he doesn't know. But the fool comes along and just thinks he knows everything. You know. Okay. Let's touch on this. We've been circling the drain on this one for a while. Gotham, thank you for the 2. Did you see the CDPR news? Yeah, I actually have it pulled up, so we'll talk about that here in just a minute. I'll blast through these things real quick. Oh yeah, Brandon Reyes, thank you for the 70. They just came out with a $70 ship bundle. I think they don't care about releasing it longer. Yeah, the $70K ship bundle, $70,000 ship bundle. I did see the bundle that has all of the ships they've ever released or will ever release. So it's kind of like the ultimate season pass. I don't know who on earth is buying that, but probably somebody. Okay. 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 I love that this is a gaming show and Luke just goes off on rants. Yeah. Sorry. It's like I have a lot of highly varied interests, and for a long time, you guys know, like I was trying very hard during streams to just stay very tightly on the narrow path of talking about games and never go off on tangents. And one day I was just like, you know what? Let's go on the tangents. Let's just embrace it. And it actually, I think, ended up making the streams better. Because we end up in rabbit holes where we're like, how the hell did we get here? But I find it fun. Yeah, that's why I watched it. Oh, I'm glad, Juicebox. Yeah. Please, Luke, be professional. Embrace the rant. Yeah. No, that's why I've called this the ADHD stream, basically. Squirrel. Okay. So PlayStation State of Play was announced for Thursday. This is after yesterday we posted a stream clip of me talking about it was weird that we didn't see it and we had no news of an event. It is, let's see. So they announced it. It is slated for Thursday, the 30th. So literally cutting it just about as close as you possibly could to the end of the month. The live stream will show off 14 titles and begins at 3 p.m. Pacific time. So that's 4 p.m. my time. I should be able to do that. I think we can stream that. It will last more than 30 minutes, so probably less than 40. But, you know, a little over half an hour. The show will include updates on PS5 and PSVR 2 titles, plus a look at PlayStation Studio games arriving later this year. Ooh. The last State of Play presentation from January showed off Death Stranding 2, Rise of the Ronin, Stellar Blade, and an announcement of course, Fizzant, which is the new Hideo Kojima game that's probably coming on the PlayStation 6. While PlayStation has also been confirmed to be a partner for Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, it's currently unknown in what capacity the publisher will attend the show. Earlier this month, Sony Interactive Entertainment named Herman Host and Hideaki Nishino as the new joint CEOs of PlayStation Business, succeeding Jim Ryan starting June 1st of 24. In a web call following the company's latest results, interim CEO Hiroki Totoki reiterated plans to, quote, aggressively improve profit margins, partially with an enhanced focus on bringing its games to PC. Yeah, PlayStation boss Herman Holst also said at the time that the platform holder was reevaluating how we operate and that the layoffs had resulted in the cancellation of unnamed game projects. A lot of live service games were canceled, seemingly. So, all of this to say, key takeaways. This is a state of play. It is not a full-on showcase. That to me suggests that they're not going to come out swinging with like tons of crazy hardware announcements. I don't think they're necessarily going to showcase any wildly baffling stuff. I'm assuming this is probably a more streamlined thing. The other thing is that they mentioned specifically they are going to be showing off PlayStation VR 2 titles. And so when I'm like, okay, well, of the 14 titles, they're probably showing a handful, maybe 4 or 5 VR games. So we're down to like 9 non-VR games, probably a handful of smaller little ports and stuff that are coming to PlayStation. And that's about it. So I would expect we see probably, honestly, I think we probably see Concord. I think we see a lot of that. I think we probably see another trailer for Fair Games, which is that other live service game. I think we probably see I don't know. My gut's telling me Ghost of Tsushima 2 will not be there. I maybe it's just that I'm feeling really burnt out after the last showcase was kind of like, okay, but my gut's just telling me we don't see Ghost of Tsushima 2. I hope we do, but I have a feeling it's probably going to be more like God of War Ragnarok coming to PC and The Last of Us Part 2 coming to PC and stuff like that. I have a feeling it's not going to be a whole lot. They could, of course, do something really cool. They're supposedly coming out with a PlayStation 5 Pro by the end of this year. They don't have any big games to release during that time, but maybe that's what they're trying to do with next gen upgrades or something. So maybe they have a video where they show God of War Ragnarok running on the PlayStation 5 Pro, and it's like, see, it looks better. See, it's a special version just for the PS5 Pro, and then we're also bringing it to PC. I kind of get a feeling they're going to do stuff like that. As for other stuff, yeah, Evil Cat, I think you're onto something. Evil Cat on Twitch says, I think we won't see any major game like Ghost of Tsushima 2. They'll keep the big games for the PS5 Pro announcement. Well, that's the thing that I think makes the most sense. If you are PlayStation and you have a big game that you know a lot of people are going to be losing it over, like a Ghost of Tsushima 2 or the next Naughty Dog game or something like that, that's really going to push the boundary graphically. If you're trying to showcase the PS5 Pro as this powerhouse of gaming, it makes sense to show a game that really will take advantage of that power. And I think any one of those games that would take advantage of that power would justify it being a full PlayStation showcase, not a state of play, not a smaller thing. Because the state of play, I mean, it could just be that this is the rebranded, like, oh yeah, it's just a state of play, but it's just what we're calling our events. Could be the case, but these names have meanings that they've established in the past. Same with like Xbox doing a developer direct. You can expect something different than an Xbox full like indie showcase or an Xbox full Call of Duty showcase. Like they try to set expectations in this way. With this, I get the feeling that this is going to be probably a handful of live service games, some PSVR 2 stuff that nobody's going to play, and then like maybe we get a look at some PC ports or something like that. But I'm not getting my hopes up for this. I just have a feeling that this is going to be a whole lot of nothing. I think it's going to be a lot of games nobody really cares about, like Concord and Fair Games, and then some PC ports. I would love to be wrong, but that's that. I also think that we'll talk to Joe Raptor about it on the podcast here in a bit, but I also think that there's the real potential for the Horizon multiplayer game to be shown off, because they've been working on that for years. And honestly, if they release that next year, I think they're screwed, because like actual Monster Hunter Wilds will be releasing next year, almost certainly. So if they try to go head to head with actual Monster Hunter, like I don't think they're winning that, you know? Like if you have a Fortnite tweaked live service version of Monster Hunter, or just real Monster Hunter, I think gamers go to Monster Hunter, you know? Like I don't think that many people will be that stoked on the Horizon version. Maybe they are. I don't know. What do you guys in chat think? Like, do you think that the Horizon live service game of Monster Hunter basically could be even slightly competitive? Because I think the second that they drop it, everybody that was playing the Horizon game goes to the actual Monster Hunter, you know? Sean, the GOAT, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Thank you, my friend. Do those games really compete for an audience that much? Well, it depends on how they frame it. That's a good question, Mr. T, and that's perhaps the most important question. If this is framed as a live service that has monster hunting stuff, but also maybe has PvP, maybe it has like a battle royale mode or all sorts of stuff, then I think it could withstand the storm that is Monster Hunter Wilds much better. But if it is what rumors have suggested, which is that it is almost just like Monster Hunter, you play co-op with your friends, there's a central hub you all can gather in, and then also it's in the Horizon universe, and it's got like a Fortnite coat of paint to it. If that's what it is, I don't think it competes with Monster Hunter. Like, because me and my friends that love Monster Hunter would probably try it. We'd probably try it, but I don't think we would, you know, I just don't think we would stick around the second we get the chance to try the real thing. Thank you also, West Sylvania. Thank you, my friend, for subbing over on Twitch. I think Sony's playing it smart. They are gonna let their games cook before showing anything big. Yeah, I think the Jim Ryan strategy was to come out swinging with live service games every few months, and that has largely flopped and fallen apart. They've canceled a lot of them. A lot of them have just not really materialized in the way they thought. They've wasted hundreds of millions of dollars on some of them, like the Last of Us online game. And so now they're like, Well, now we just have huge gaps in our schedule. Because again, you got to remember that these studios and companies are making plans super far in advance. Like, if you just think of the timeline of like 2015 and then like 2020, and then we'll do 2025 and then 2030. You have to plan all this stuff out because each one of these games takes like 5 years. So you have this game that took 5 years. You have to come up with the idea in 2015 and then execute it in 2020. That's what like The Last of Us Part 2 is, right? And same with something like Helldivers. Helldivers took a long time and released in 2024, but they came up with the idea there, they worked on it, and then released it there. The problem is that they greenlit a ton of projects in this time, and none of them have really materialized. Some of them have just straight up been canceled. Others have been, you know, in progress, but nobody's really interested, like a Fair Games. And so now they're just trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do because their production schedule is all screwy now. Because like this, let's say The Last of Us Part 2 was supposed to release. This was green. Last of Us Part 2 or Last of Us Online was supposed to be this green bar. Well, it's gone. It's canceled. So that's just gone. So now there's nothing releasing in this window here. And then they release Helldivers, and that does really well. But this game also canceled. And then Fair Games is coming, or this one was also canceled. This is Marathon. Marathon's going to release, and it's probably going to be pretty good, but that's a long ways off. And then, you know, you just have to have all of these projects going at the same time. And if a couple of them drop, you end up like what we have now, where you have 2024 with basically nothing except Helldivers releasing. They might have like a PC port or two. And that, like, this is why they put the PlayStation Studios branding on Rise of the Ronin, because they wanted to make it seem like they had more stuff in the catalog ready to go than they actually did. But this just happens under mismanagement, you know? So we do have Concord coming. That's true. So if we draw like a little orange, we have Concord coming allegedly by the end of this year. And I'm expecting we see that showcased at the event. But even Sony's PlayStation or Sony's head said they didn't have any big tentpole releases. Hold on. Let me see if I can find the original quote. Yeah, his exact verbiage was no major franchise release. Latest fiscal report, Sony president Hiroki Totoki said it wouldn't release any new major existing franchise titles before April of 2025. So no Ghost of Tsushima 2, no big surprise announcement from any of the other companies doing sequels or anything, like no Last of Us Part 3, shocker. We're not getting anything like that. Probably Concord, a new IP from a new team trying to do a live service game. And maybe that blows up, but they got a lot of littler stuff coming. Let's see, are we back? Are we back? I see some frames dropped. Knack 3. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. So, I mean, I fully expect... Close these down. I fully expect that we probably see Concord at this event. I think we probably, you know, see maybe a trailer for Fair Games. I think we see news of like PC ports of maybe God of War Ragnarok and The Last of Us Part 2. And maybe we get a big surprise announcement for like a Horizon Forbidden or a Horizon multiplayer online, whatever. Because I think they have to announce that soon. Otherwise, they're in trouble. But other than that, I don't know what else we could reasonably expect to see. I think They could showcase Ghost of Tsushima, just a trailer to get everybody to calm down and leave them alone. But I, like you guys were saying in chat, I think it makes more sense for them to wait until they're doing the PlayStation 5 Pro showcase, which I don't think this is going to be. PlayStation this generation was the remake console. In the last 2 years, they had almost nothing. And I mean, as far as I can tell, it all goes back to Jim Ryan. Like, if he had let some of these big studios work on single player stuff instead of this live service garbage, we would have that now. But Last of Us 2 on PC could be good. Oh yeah, no, any chance to get more games on PC that were previously exclusive, I think is great for the industry in general. So I'll be happy about that. I just think we need to be clear. Like, I don't think that they're going to be coming out with like surprise announcement. Look at The Last of Us Part 3. Maybe they do, and maybe this is part of the grand plan, is that they're like, yeah, we're going to say it's a state of play, and we're going to kind of let them down and make them think that this is just going to be like VR stuff and remakes and live service, and then we're going to blow them away with a look at what Naughty Dog or Santa Monica's been doing. Maybe that's what they do, but
28 is now a member. Happy 15th month, Luke. I learn a lot from you. Should I be expecting a ring soon?
Happy 15 months, Luke. I learn a lot from you. Appreciate you. Should I be expecting a ring soon? A ring. What do you mean by a ring? Oh, do you mean like I'm going to propose to you and we're going to get married? Oh. I was like trying second wife. I was like a ring. First I thought Ring doorbell, like Ring cameras. I was like, you want a camera? Then I was like, wait, a ring. And then I was like, I was just talking with one of the players in my D&D campaign that I'm running about a magical ring he wants. So I was like, you want a magical ring? And then I figured it out. Yeah. We've been in a relationship for 15 months. I don't know, man. I just get cold feet. I get cold feet. I don't know what to tell you.
Reinhard98 donated €5 through Super Chat. PlayStation this generation was the remake
now it's reading it.
console. In the last 2 years, they had almost
It's always so
nothing.
behind. Yeah. Elden Ring DLC. So that's a good question. Do we see that at this PlayStation event? Maybe we get a little trailer. I expect it to be at Summer Game Fest. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but I'm just guessing it'll be there. But honestly, it's going to be wildly successful whether they show it off or not. We all know we're already buying it. Let's be honest. Like, the Elden Ring DLC is going to be huge and epic, and I'm sure we're all going to love it. So if we see it, great. But I'm almost at the point with the Elden Ring DLC where I want to go into like lockdown. You know, there's some games where you're like, okay, I'm good. I'm ready to go into lockdown. I don't want anything spoiled. Let's just call it good, you know? On the main cam cursing user, this is a Sony FX30, I believe. And it is using it's a 15 millimeter f1.8, I want to say. Because of the FX30, it doesn't have a full frame sensor. So it's going to crop whatever image is coming in because it's a smaller sensor. So it's like a micro four thirds, I think. And so you have to get a really wide lens in order to have a decently wide shot. So it gets the job done. It works really well. But yeah, it's total overkill for a lot of people. I can't tell you though, I've had like 3 or 4 people and like other YouTubers, big YouTubers, reach out and ask me what camera I'm using and how I got my stuff to look like this. But then I send them all the info on it and they're like, ooh, I might just keep my Logitech webcam. I'm like, you do you, man. Like, if it works, it works, you know? I get anal about the production value and I like the nicer camera. I'm happier with it. Oh yeah, X Defiance good. MD, X Defiance good. It's not for everybody though. It's not for everybody. Some people will love it, other people will hate it. My wife hates it, but I thought it was fine. You know, it felt like old school Call of Duty, honestly. Until Dawn remake. I haven't seen any news on it. Maybe we get some news on it. That'd be cool. Okay, let's blast through these last couple stories before we do the podcast with Jor. Let's do this. Better than COD? I don't know about better. It's just different. It's just different. Maybe as time goes by, it'll evolve and get like significantly better. But as of right now, I'd say it's like a solid alternative to COD. But there's also a lot of stuff COD has that it doesn't. So, yeah, just multiple layers. Okay. News segment. Okay. G Swine also, thank you for the sub with Prime over on Twitch. Thank you, my friend. Okay, let's do this. CD Projekt says it wants to release major games more frequently, and they have officially ended production and work on Cyberpunk 2077. And they are fully working on pre-production of the next Witcher game. Right now, they are still in pre-production on it. They expect to be in full production later this year. And that means that like Cyberpunk is officially done. It is finished and they are moving on to the next thing, which is crazy that we're here. So from this, they have also, of course, communicated that they want to do stuff more frequently. So we've got this post here, development teams engaged in ongoing projects. They have Cyberpunk. In February of 24, they had 17 people working on Cyberpunk. Now, there's no one. I imagine they probably have some tech support crews that occasionally will pop in and maybe do like a security patch or something, but it seems like a lot of those people have just been shifted over, and now their full-time job is working on Polaris, which is the next Witcher game. Then they have other people working on Orion, other people working on Sirius, Hadar, shared services, and then other projects over here. So in the last few months, they've hired 3 people. And they are just slowly expanding and doubling down and getting all this stuff ready. It's pretty crazy that we're here. I'm thoroughly excited because it feels like they've actually sufficiently streamlined their production process. They're happy with how things are currently set up. There's the example with, let's see, it was GDC Cyberpunk, and it was the studio director talking about it. Let me see if I can find the actual interview. Teams maybe. Here it is. So they talked about the difficulty during the production of Cyberpunk because they basically had all this trouble with it's the same thing Bethesda has had, where basically there were inefficiencies built into their process. So if you imagine like you're trying to do a scene, the example he gives in the video is you're trying to do a scene where, you know, you just have a room and then you have a couple of people and they're talking to each other and they're having a great conversation going back and forth. And maybe there's like, you know, chairs and there's a table there that they're sitting at. Really simple scene. But to do that and to pull that off, what they have to do is that they have to go and initially pass that off to the like set designers and the modelers, and they go in there and they build a room, and then they go in there and they decorate the room with the table, and then they put in the chairs, and the chairs are there. Woo, yay, love the chairs. And then they go in and then the cinematic crew takes over, or rather they like texture it, they send it to materials. So they have one team and then it goes to another team. It goes to another
Rafael
team.
Carvalho donated 54 Brazilian reals and 90 centavos
Oh,
through
thank
Super
you.
Chat. 16 times the bugs.
16 times the bugs indeed. And part of the reason they had so many bugs was because of this process, because they would have one team handle this, and then it would go to the next team. The next team would add in some color, they would texture anything that needed to be textured, or specialty assets and stuff would get added, and then they go over here and they do that. Then they pass it forward to the next crew, and the next crew comes in and they add in like the lighting, and the lighting's so beautiful and it looks so cinematic and crazy cool. And then they pass it to the next team, and the next team goes in there and they add the actual characters. But there's a problem. The chairs are pushed into the table. We need to move the chairs, and we need the setup of the room altered slightly to set up the scene in the way that we want it. So what happens? Do they just move it? No, they're the lighting crew. So they send it all the way back. And these guys now have to redo it. And then, because they need signatures from this team to move it on to the next team, they have to send it forward to the texturing crew. And then they send it back forward to the lighting crew. And they might have to relight some stuff, or maybe it's just good to go, and they pass it forward. So there's all these layers of inefficiency anytime anything needs to be tweaked. Because each time this happens, these guys will get to it when they can, but they're busy doing all the other scenes that other teams over here have passed to them. And so they are going to get to it when they can, but they're just like, these guys are waiting until they get what they need from the previous teams. So there's just multiple layers of inefficiency. And it's the same thing that happens at Bethesda Game Studios that has been leaked and discussed in all sorts of interviews and stuff from former and current devs, where there's just too much bureaucracy, too many layers of management. In order to get anything done, it has to go through multiple signatures. And then if something has to be redone, it goes all the way back to the beginning. And then they have to get all the signatures again. It's just super, super inefficient. So what they did at CDPR for Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty is they re-evaluated the whole production system and tried to figure out how to do it more efficiently. And so they made what they call like strike teams. And so what they do is, instead of having each of these things as a separate team that needs separate signatures, they put one person from each one of these teams on an individual strike team. So you have the guy from the modeling department, you have one guy from the lighting team, you have one of the ladies from, lighting, and then, over here we have the other guy from the cinematics team. And so you then have this team that's ready to go, and they handle everything in the scene. Now, that then means that there's not as many layers of possible creative input, blah, blah, blah. But it does mean that this team can do everything they need to do to achieve this scene and to finish it quickly, because each of the relevant skill sets are represented, and then they can move on to the next scene. And then you can also more easily, as the manager or game director, you can more easily quantify who's doing good work in certain ways. Maybe you go to this scene in the game when he's reviewing stuff and he's like, yeah, the lighting is just not great. And then he can realize, it's because David or whoever is not doing a great job. So maybe David needs more training, or we send him to a different team underneath somebody else until he gets his feet under him. You can identify who's responsible for each of these things. Freaking David. Yeah. So that's what they did. And it worked fantastically well. And it put a lot of pressure on the game director, of course, and his team of directors, because they had to go in and check on every one of these teams and make sure everything was working the way it was supposed to. But clearly, it greatly improved their efficiency, their ability to get things done in a high quality way. And it also allowed for the directors to be much more aware of where the game currently was, instead of having sort of a misunderstanding of where the game currently was in development. They actually understood how these things were working. It's like he talks about it here.
And ownership. There's a lot going on this page here, and I'll try to. I'm going to take some time with it. So what we did is essentially kind of duplicate or try to duplicate the game director and empower people to do stuff that the game director would do in different areas. And we kind of had different product areas that we split up, if you will. We had the narrative area, the gameplay area, and World Sandbox and the Art Center. We also had some others to deal with specific stuff. And we put a product owner, an area product owner in each one that then would be able to kind of make those calls. Now, the trick, of course, being is that if one area product owner is making a call and it disagrees, like if the narrative product owner wants to make a call about something with the art or the time of day and the scene, and it kind of conflicts with something that maybe the art director has in mind, alignment. Alignment is a key, right? So you're all kind of on the same page and you understand the pillars and the vision and the intention of different areas. So APO makes calls about the, like a game director, and we might know the what's, like the stuff I explained before, but we got to know like the whys, and we got to get together. So how did we resolve this stuff? Well, the kind of tricks of the trade. We got together and we did sort of jams together. We reviewed things together. And then the APOs would go out and do the actual kind of sprint reviews as the tasks get done. The team started to do stuff and deliver stuff. The APOs would make calls and be able to say, okay, approved, approved, and they can move on with their iteration. And hopefully that APO has the kind of gameplay in mind, the art in mind of the narrative. Same thing with World Sandbox, keeping all that stuff in mind. And that was because before those reviews, we would try to get together and do our reviews together. We'd play games to kind of do comparisons and stuff like that. So, because there's thousands of emergent calls, as I was saying all the time. So this formula, like kind of, or it's not on the screen, but yeah. So this setup is aspirational and it's sort of illustrative. We weren't always in this form, but the idea was to kind of distribute ownership, empower people, and make sure that we got aligned. And the producers...
And I think that that's represented in the final product. Whereas in something like Starfield, you play it and you get a feeling that a lot of people had different ideas of what they were trying to do. And that's why you end up with conflicting tones, conflicting gameplay design and things, where like in one mission you do something really cool in Starfield, and then the next mission it's the most boring thing you've ever experienced, and it's just because the teams were there was no consistency of vision, there was not really any alignment. People were constantly waiting for approvals on stuff, so stuff got forgotten and it just drifted further and further. It's Gabe Amatangelo. He probably says it at the very top.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Changing the game. I love double entendres. My name is Gabe. I am the game director on Cyberpunk 2077 after launch and Phantom Liberty, and VP at CD Projekt Red.
VP, ooh baby. So really fascinating case. I think, they've done a lot. We talk, of course, a lot about skepticism on Luke Stevens Live, just in general, because I think it's the best way to protect against fraud and deception and trickery and BS, is just by maintaining healthy skepticism. And all that means is that you don't accept a claim until there is sufficient evidence to accept that claim. And in the case of CDPR, I don't think you should give them any like generous benefit of the doubt or anything when it comes to their next game. Like when we see the next Witcher game, I don't think you should just assume it will run great and be super polished, especially because they're using new tech and all that stuff where there's the potential for hiccups to arise. But I do think that they have shown a real desire and drive to right the wrong and to fix it, in the same way like Hello Games has with No Man's Sky. And so I think there is something really impressive about what they pulled off with Cyberpunk 2077, especially because a lot of other companies would have just abandoned it and moved on to The Witcher and been like, they'll forgive us when they play The Witcher, it's fine. But instead they fixed it and they tried to really, really improve it. And I do think that deserves some credit. in my humble opinion. Doesn't mean that you forget what happened. It just means that you should be cautiously optimistic, I think. Company-wide changes, changing engine, Bethesda wouldn't do that. Well, yeah, and I think it's why CDPR gets so many extra levels of hype and excitement compared to Bethesda. Like CDPR, people see them really trying to change and improve stuff, whereas Bethesda is seemingly just fine with where they are. Okay, last thing before we do the podcast, let's touch on this. Mr. Yong, tell us what's up, my friend.
To this day, Rainbow Six Siege is...
God damn, that was loud. Oh, Yong, turn that down a tad.
one of Ubisoft's most successful games, and it's also one of the most successful live services, period. I mean, just looking at how many players are checking this game out to this day, we're still in the tens of thousands of players.
That's just through Steam, too. Most people play it either console or through the Ubisoft launcher.
This game actually reached an all-new record for all-time peak concurrent players just 2 months ago, exceeding over 200,000 players at one point. So this is a game that, you know, seems to be either maintaining its player base or growing from time to time, and it is a game that millions of players continue to enjoy, but there's still a lot to criticize about its monetization system, especially with Ubisoft introducing, on top of everything else that this game already has, a subscription. So this was announced in Major Manchester, which is essentially an esports event. This is a Rainbow Six Siege tournament, and this is where Ubisoft took the opportunity to announce some upcoming updates for this game. And their next season, which is Year 9 Season 2, is titled Operation New Blood. And you can see right here that all of the marketing surrounding this season has garnered tons of negative reviews. And
yeah, without a doubt, people are downvoting it. I don't tend to put a lot of credit or credibility into mass downvote campaigns just because it doesn't seem to be that indicative of final performance. Like, look at, we can do it right now. We'll do it live. Look at Steam's Call of Duty listing. Like, just look up Warzone on Steam. It has like overwhelmingly or mostly negative reviews. Yeah, look at this. Like, if you looked at this, only 32% of reviews are positive in all time. 30% of recent reviews are positive. Everyone hates Call of Duty. But guess what the biggest game in the world is? Call of Duty. So people can like hate something and downvote it, but it doesn't mean that like the actual money exchanging hands will change substantially. So what will be the real determining factor is whether people buy this or stop playing or things like that. You know, that's where you can actually see a significant change.
And tons of dislikes. The likes to dislikes ratios for these trailers just don't look particularly great.
I think it's only, and mark my words, this is like sort of a prediction, it's only a matter of time before YouTube fully hides the dislike button and count. Right now it is hidden unless you like install a Chrome like add-on, and honestly the only types of people that would install a Chrome extension to enable the dislike count, the types of people that do that are the types of people to mass downvote stuff. So the vast majority of people I don't think are aware of where these things are. I don't think the casual gamer is necessarily aware of what the like to dislike ratio is or whether it's being mass downvoted. And so I think if anything, like YouTube's just gonna cut it at some point. They'll just fully hide it. That's my expectation.
And a big part of that has to do with the introduction of a membership, especially during a season where new content is relatively thin. The new season will remaster an existing operator, the Recruit, which is the game's original operator. This operator has essentially been split into two, Striker and Sentry. And then beyond that, the season introduces things like quality of life improvements, balance changes, and the global release of the peer-to-peer marketplace in Rainbow Six Siege. And they talked about other aspects and areas where they...
If anybody's aware of the peer-to-peer marketplace, does that just mean that you're going to be able to like sell skins and stuff? Are they just trying to turn this into like CSGO? Is that what this is? What's the point in hiding it? They don't want mass downvote campaigns. Like YouTube gets those knocks on the door from Disney every time one of their movie trailers gets mass downvoted, and I think eventually they're just going to cave and be like, okay, we'll just hide it completely so nobody gets mass downvoted. I think that's what YouTube's going to do. Let's be honest, like YouTube doesn't really care if we're voicing our opinion. They just want to keep the advertisers happy. Yes, marketplaces so people can sell skins, uniforms, etc. So it's just basically the NFT. It's basically just the NFT thing rewrapped into this. If NFTs weren't such a toxic term, I bet you right now they'd be using the term NFT for the marketplace.
Work to improve like player protection systems, anti-cheat mechanics, and for the purposes of balance changes, they're also going to nerf aspects of certain operators. So all that's fine and well, but then we get into the membership itself. You can either pay $10 a month, which would be $120 a year, or if you know you're committing to a year, you might as well go for the cheaper option, $80 for an annual sign-up. And subscribers will get a continuous stream of premium content that keeps your ops equipped with the best exclusive gear. There's also monthly content drops, including a time-limited legendary item, sometimes animated for extra flair, and an epic operator bundle, along with monthly cosmetic Bravo packs and full access to the premium battle pass with 10 level skips. So yeah.
So I don't play Rainbow, so I need you guys to tell me because I just genuinely don't know. So are there gameplay affecting things in like operator voucher? I'm assuming that allows you to unlock an operator you don't already have, including like good ones that maybe you just haven't paid for already. Skins, whatever, they're skins, brand packs and brand tickets. I don't know what that means. What are those for? All our cosmetics. Okay. Battle level skips. That's pretty standard for battle passes and stuff like that. As long as all of that's cosmetic. So it sounds like, I mean, Fallout First, to be clear, I saw somebody say it's this game's version of Fallout First. Fallout First is way worse than this. If you guys are saying that it's just camos and skins, because Fallout First has actual like pay to win stuff. Like it actually has like unlimited storage. It has the ability to run private servers. It has actual like gameplay stuff locked behind paywalls. This just looks like if you want to give them more money for some reason and pay for a subscription, you can do that. And then they'll give you like these bundled things. So I don't like it. Just like I don't like, you know, World of Warcraft's monthly subscription. Like I just don't like monthly subscriptions that are more expensive than like Netflix, but are for a single video game. Like I just don't like it. I wouldn't ever buy it. But it's at least not the worst thing I've ever seen, which isn't saying much.
So yeah, you do get quite a good amount of goodies, some of which will be strictly paywalled behind this subscription, some which you will only be able to attain if you become a part of this membership. And they're essentially relying on FOMO to get people to pay even more than they're already paying for all the other monetization elements that are included in this game. This membership subscription mirrors what Fortnite did with their Fortnite Crew membership, which involves you paying a certain amount every month, $12 a month. And for that, similarly to what Rainbow Six is doing with their membership, you get Battle Pass included for the full season, you get 1,000 V-Bucks each month, and you get a new monthly crew pack. And Ubisoft, seeing that this kind of stuff has become more normalized, Forgot
to cut out the first take.
That this kind of stuff has become more normalized, and Ubisoft, seeing that this kind of stuff is
young glitched.
more normalized, are deciding that it's their time to implement their version of such a monetization tactic. But the thing about Fortnite is that unlike Rainbow Six Siege, it is a free-to-play game. As you can see right here, the game does cost a premium price point for the base experience, and I emphasize base because there's a lot of content that's locked initially that you can either grind for, or of course you can pay to fast track unlocking things like operators, among other things. As GameSpot highlights here, Rainbow Six Siege not only isn't free to play, it also is already heavily monetized with skins, loot boxes, and a seasonal battle pass to add memberships and subscription fees. On top of that, the Rainbow Six Siege community are seeing as excessive, and even without the membership, it was already excessive. This game already has every monetization system and tactic and scheme under the sun. They're now layering one more on top of that. And you can see how poor the audience reception was from the boos that you can hear from the tournament event where Ubisoft made the announcement. This is somebody who filmed the audience reaction at Manchester Major, which is where Rainbow Six Siege fans and enthusiasts gather for this esports event. Here's what that reaction sounds like.
Each month, as a member, you will have access to the premium battle pass, unlimited privileges. It comes in the form of a 10% shop discount and a 30% festival. You will also get 2 battle passes.
Are they screaming F you? Is that what they're chanting?
And then to kickstart for the next season, 1 battle pack, 1 fully equipped bundle, and 1 legendary item, which is part of the legendary bundle that we will tie to the season. The premium battle pass, the 10 tokens, and the Bravo pack will be given.
So you can see that the crowd got quite rowdy, booing, chanting against this implementation.
For the players who stayed members throughout the season and got the 3 legendary items and the 4 legendary bundle.
It's bad when you have to have a complicated graph to explain all of this. They're shouting wanker. Oh, I forgot it's Manchester. Yeah, of course. I should have known. I should have known. I mean, again, I really don't like this stuff. And this is, you know, somebody I think misunderstood in the other stream clip I did where I tried to explain the difference between like greed and covering costs. When a company offers multiple editions, I don't necessarily think of that as greed. This is greed. Like Rainbow Six is already the most successful game monetarily, probably that they have out right now. It's making the most money out of anything that they do. It's wildly successful. Like this is just them going even further. Like they have more than enough to cover expenses. They've made tons of profit, lots on this, and now they're just going one step further. But honestly, I don't think it's going to change much of anything. I think the people that are going to spend a lot of money in this game, the whales, are going to buy it anyways. And in a month or two, it's going to be normalized. Like if Tarkov can survive what Tarkov did just a few weeks ago, like this is nothing. Like this really is nothing. What Tarkov did was just like next level greed and scummy. And they walked it back like 50%, and people have just kind of forgiven them and moving on. Or at least they're like, yeah, it sucks, but it's whatever. Like, I just don't. Same with, GTA Plus, same with Fallout First. There's just all the rage about it, and then they just move on. People burn out. We see it all the time. Like, you know, same with Helldivers 2. People were freaking out about the PSN requirement and Sony delisting the game from countries that can't sign up for PSN. And then what happens? Ghost of Tsushima drops, and it's not purchasable in those territories and countries. Almost 200 across the globe where you just can't buy the game because you can't make a PSN account, even though it's only required for the multiplayer. But people moved on. People forgot about it and just burnt out on their rage, you know? So, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is the case with Tarkov that they have seen a significant drop or they've stopped making as much money. People stopped engaging with it. I don't have, of course, their internal numbers, but as far as I can tell from the outside, their player numbers are still high. A lot of streamers are still streaming it. It's not like people bailed. Like the most significant outrage I saw with a live service shooter like this was when Call of Duty banned Nick Merckx, if you guys remember that. Well, they didn't ban him. They delisted his skin in the store because of a tweet he made. And so Tim the Tap Man and a couple of other streamers who played Call of Duty said, okay, no, put him back on the store, because what he said was, in our opinion, it was not cancelable. And so they pulled off and left the game as well, because they were so pissed about how Nick Merckx was treated. And that was an instance where you actually saw streamers and content creators kind of banding together to try and force a corporation to do something they felt was needed. But with this, like, do you really think like Jinxie is gonna stop playing Rainbow because of this? Like, no. Like, all those big streamers are gonna keep playing it, keep talking about it, and that's that. Yeah, he plays Apex anyway. Yeah, that was one of those things where it was like, okay, I'll just go play Apex anyway. What happened to Nick as well? Last I saw, like, when I checked on him like 6 months ago or something, he had like 40,000 subs on Twitch or something, and when I checked in on him the other day, he had like 4,000 or something. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's also streaming on Kick or something, so maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I'm not in the loop. But okay, guys. So with that having been said, I will end this stream event. We will be back in just a few minutes doing the podcast with Mr. Joraptor. That will be a separate stream event you guys will see on the Luke Stevens Live channel. So right as this stream ends, just click on Luke Stevens Live and the logo or whatever, after you hit subscribe, of course. And then you go and just wait there, refresh the live event feed, and you should see it pop up here in just a minute or two. But we'll end this stream. We'll do the podcast with Jor and rock and roll, okay? So much love. I'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll talk more about games and all that goodness, okay? Much love. I'll see you soon. Mwah.